Hello, this is Life Up coming your way again. Today we're going to look at some of the common offenses that can make you inadmissible to Canada. So stay tuned to the end so that you get to know some of these things. Inadmissibility is one of the things that really affect people. It doesn't affect most people because most people or like most people that you've heard of are applying for temporary residence, in which inadmissibility is a little bit like lessened, or like what I put it is a little bit overlooked, not totally overlooked if it is not a serious offense. They overlook at it. But if you want to become permanent resident, then inadmissibility is really a big issue. But even with temporary residence, inadmissibility really happens to so many people. So, as you know, that in Canada there are two institutions that check that you enter the country. That is the IRCC, Immigration Office, and then the Border Office. Those are the port of entry, Canadian Border Services. They are the two institutions that check that you are able to enter the country. So your inadmissibility could, IRCC, they could deny you a visa to Canada based on inadmissibility, or even if you get a visa at the port of entry, the Canadian Border Services can also deny you entry. They can also deny you entry due to inadmissibility. So let's look at some of the offenses that is deemed inadmissibility. They are very common one. You may think that they are not, but they are. They are very common. The first one is driving offenses involving alcohol or drug. Driving offenses involving alcohol or drug. So in the United States especially, these offenses like driving under influence, driving while impaired or intoxicated, driving while ability impaired, driving while under the influence, operating while intoxicated, operating under the influence, and then operating motor vehicle while intoxicated. So that is, yeah. But in some countries, this thing may not be recorded into any record, but you should know that it is an offense that can render you inadmissibility. It is an offense that can render you inadmissibility. The other one is reckless driving. Reckless driving. So if you drive dangerously, that can also result in inadmissibility. Inadmissibility. So like if you've driven to get accident that due to your fault recklessly. So all this one can render you, even if you plan to come to Canada and drive or not, all these things can render you inadmissibility. You may think that this, how would they find this? They can find it if they want to, even in the developing country where these things may not be recorded in some of our database, but some of them have been recorded. Maybe you did reckless driving and then you went to court and you were jailed, or even you were fined. Like you get those records. It's not a criminal record, but it's something that goes to your file that can affect you. That can affect you. If they dig deep into your records, they may see it. Fraud. Fraud too is one of the things that can get you inadmissibility. Fraud. So defrauding people. Defrauding people. So, like, generally, fraud is a general category of offenses that involves the act of committed with the intent of depriving another party of anything which they are rightful owner. So corruption, bribery, and all those things. If there's evidence against you, it can render you inadmissibility. Inadmissibility. And then it's based on the amount. That is where they look at it. And then assault. Assault too can render you inadmissibility. Yeah, whether it is serious or non-serious assault, especially when it involves weapons or bodily harm, that will render you inadmissibility to Canada. That will render you inadmissibility to Canada. And then drug offenses. Yeah, drug offenses. So drug offenses too can render you inadmissibility to Canada. So drugs are classified differently in the Criminal Code of Canada. So if the classification of a particular drug would determine the nature and gravity of the offense and severity. So drug can do that. And then another thing too that can render you inadmissibility to is medical. If your health would be a threat to the citizen of Canadian, or it will put stress on their health care, that can also render you inadmissibility. So we're looking at driving, we're looking at driving recklessly, driving under alcohol or drug, fraud, and then drug offenses, and then medical history. This thing can render you. I think the medical history will be the one that will affect most people from Africa, because that will be really known. That will be really known. But the others may not, because they may not have the record for that. But you still have to know that it can render you inadmissibility, because some of those offenses may be on your record. So and then one thing too is your family members can render you inadmissibility. When any of your family member is inadmissible to Canada, it can affect you. If any of your family member is inadmissible to Canada, it can affect you. So there are things that you can do if you find yourself in any of these situations. One is to use temporary resident permit. A temporary resident permit. Like I said, the temporary resident permit, the inadmissibility is lessened than the permanent resident. And then they have what they call criminal rehabilitation application. So you have to apply to the government for them to pardon you all your records, all those bad records, or you use a legal opinion letter. So you get a legal opinion letter. So a foreign national has committed or been convicted, they can proactively avoid being found inadmissible by submitting legal opinion letter to address that. So this is what you need to know. It's very common that you may be inadmissible if you have any of these issues. So thank you. If you have any question, please do not hesitate to ask. We'll do our best to explain. Thank you for staying to the end. See you next time. Bye.